wrestling fans, and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. For the next 2 hours, we will bring you the latest pro wrestling news, in-depth analysis of all your favorite promotions from across the globe, and much, much more. We will also bring you exclusive interviews with the greatest professional wrestling personalities on the local, national, and international levels. If you want to follow the Wrestle Talk Podcast, check us out online at www.wrestletalkpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And now, it's time for the reigning, defending, undisputed leader in pro wrestling podcast, the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 433 of the Wrestle Talk Podcast, right here on all of our great social media outlets, as well as WrestleTalkPodcast.com. You can also check us out Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. You can find us all over social media. And tonight, we're going to have a great show. At 8:15, we're going to be joined by Jon Scrutch. He is the the JICW, the Journey Independent Championship Wrestling Intercontinental Champion. And we're going to be joined by John here at about 8:15. We're also going to have the Snippets of Truth. We're going to have the FWWC. We're going to have the Shoot and Shout. We're going to have the High Spots. And, of course, we're going to have the world-famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge right here on the program tonight. If you enjoy the best that we bring you each and every week, make it a point to hashtag WTP or Let's Talk Wrestling. Also make it a point to share us to all of your friends here. We got a great show lined up tonight right here. Also, as a reminder to make sure to check out WrestleTalkPodcast.com. A lot of great things going on there as well. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be joined here momentarily by one of our guest hosts. I want to give a shout out to a couple people who are very well known with the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Our good friend Hardcore Hoss and the Night Owl himself, Renee Martinez, both out taking care of business for the Wrestle Talk Podcast this evening. They will be rejoining us in the next couple of weeks, so make it a point to continue to tune in right here to the Wrestle Talk Podcast. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe our first guest host is here. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was going to be you, Big Sexy. How are you doing, my friend?
Justin's on his way in, so I thought I'd come in and join you for a few minutes, just since I'm running the show back behind the scenes, and we can't let you do your own devices. So we got to keep you in line, boy.
Well, I got to tell you this right now, Chris. Couldn't you have picked a better shirt?
Well, I'm not a Cubs fan, so.
Well, that is true. That is true. But I mean, again, I got to say this, Chris, we're going to totally jump right field here. I mean, again, I know a lot of people that view the Wrestle Talk Podcast enjoy the St. Louis Cardinals, but you got to talk about St. Louis City FC too. I mean, they have been lighting it up, and you got to talk about the Battlehawks too. I mean, again, 2 great seasons having taken place here in the greater area. Do you have any input on either of those, Chris?
I know the Blackhawks. Jesus, I got Chicago in my mind. The Battlehawks can make the playoffs if there's a playoff scenario. They would have been in if they would have won this past week. So they need a little bit of help. But yeah, I think if the Battlehawks get a home game, I think they can fill that dome up down there. So.
I can agree with you, Chris.
I'm not big into soccer, but they weren't expecting this from St. Louis City, so they were expecting they were just kind of gonna fly under the radar and maybe be best if they were 500. So I mean,
they're doing a lot better than 500,
right? I think they've only lost 1 game.
And like I said, I and this is gonna sound weird, but I wasn't a huge soccer guy. I mean, I played a little bit of indoor soccer in college, and again, I played better part of the season. But the person who really turned me onto the world of soccer here in the St. Louis area?
Who's that?
You may fall out your chair. The one and only Richard Douglas.
Really? Well, yeah, because he was big into soccer when in Alton. His dad, his dad or grandpa was a big soccer coach in the Alton area for the longest time.
Well, you know something that was out there too, and I'm going to level with the viewers here. I mean, again, everybody knows our good friend Richard Douglas. I'm going to be respectful of the man because he's always been respectful to me. But when I had the opportunity, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that's a part of his deal. That's a big to do for him. He's just putting on a show." No, he was sitting there back when we had the St. Louis Football Club in Fenton. He was with the top of the heap when it came to that group of people. It seemed like everywhere I turned, people knew this man. And I mean, again, it's one of those we haven't seen from him a while. I know he's been kind of stewing. And thanks, Aaron. We talk about him, knowing our luck, he's just going to mysteriously appear one day. It's kind of like Beetlejuice. You say his name, and he's going to appear. But when it comes down to it, I got to say this, Chris. I mean, again, it was one of those, I really have to say that he has been a huge supporter. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are several people, and I'm not going to mention any names because I want to be respectful, but there are several people on the St. Louis independent wrestling scene who are huge St. Louis City FC fans. I'm not going to mention any names.
Yes.
But again, they are just like the Battlehawks, one of the hottest things in St. Louis right now, just like the world of professional wrestling. I mean,
the Battlehawks are like second in attendance. DC, they regularly are drawing 30,000+ to the Dome, and the Dome ain't that great of a location to have an event at. So
yeah, but I mean, again, Chris, it's been one of those. Even when you go with I guess round 2 of the XFL versus round 3, St. Louis has consistently been an XFL town, is very quickly becoming a soccer town. It's a hockey town, obviously. I mean, you can look over your shoulders and see that St. Louis is a hockey town. They're a baseball town. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in St. Louis. Pro wrestling is another one. And the month of May, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on here in the program tonight. But I mean, again, the St. Louis area is going to be hopping with pro wrestling. The Midwest is. I mean, again, you can't go wrong here in St. Louis when it comes to pro sports. And again, you can't go wrong with being here on the Wrestle Talk podcast tonight. Before we get too much farther along, Chris, let's go ahead. Besides thanking our great viewers who tune in each and every week here, we're also going to talk about our great sponsors who help support the Wrestle Talk podcast. We got Royal Mills Transportation. If you need wheels in Kansas City, Royal Mills is the group for you. Rathbun Engraving, home of those great Wrestle Talk podcast mugs. Noblemen's Barber Lounge, Kansas City. Kincaid Arcade at the Oak Park Mall. Our good friends over at Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeye Designs. They are the one behind those great Wrestle Talk podcast tumblers. And, of course, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group. And, a matter of fact, we're going to be hearing from the FWWC, from my understanding, later this evening, along with the Snippets of Truth with Big Daddy P. Chris, I got to tell you, man, it really is going to be a great show here tonight on the Wrestle Talk.
Excuse me. It really should be. I mean, we got a lot of things coming up. So, I know Justin said he's running a little behind, so I'm going to help you out here a little bit, and then I'm going to fade off behind the scenes temporarily. So,
well, right now, like I said, Chris, first of all, I totally left it out there. I mean, we're going to talk about taking care of a little bit of business, but I got to throw one more thing out here, and this is going to be a personal thing here. I know I kind of gave you some grief about your Cardinal shirt, but I got to ask you, are you digging the new threads here tonight?
Oh, you got a Yoda shirt on.
Hey, it's a Grogu shirt. It's a baby Yoda, however you want to call it. That is Luke Roberts right here. You know that far too well. And again, I had to be representing here because, like I said, we're talking about, we got Cinco de Mayo coming up in a few days. We also have Star Wars Day. Again, it's one of those things that's me. But when it comes down to it, I mean, tonight we're going to have a great talk on pro wrestling issues. And you know something, Chris? You take care of everything so well each and every week. You have been kind of the standard bearer, if you will, for the Wrestle Talk podcast as of late, as well as the voice of Dynamo Pro Wrestling. You know what? I'm going to ask you a favor.
Oh, I can try.
Well, we're gonna try here. I want you to channel that deep down voice of Dynamo Pro Wrestling. I want you to take kind of a blend of Chris Rodell meets Nightmare Jones.
Oh, I was going to say, you're going to make me talk like Joe Lanz. No.
You're gonna make it a point. I want to see, and I know the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast want to see the greatest introduction to our program. We know we've talked about the sponsors. We made it a point to talk about all of our great viewers. And again, hashtag WTP, hashtag Let's Talk Wrestling. Also, if you have any questions for the high spots, make it a point to send it here on the messages as well. Make sure you sign in so that I see who's here on the program this evening. But Chris, as the Night Owl says, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you because I want to see the greatest introduction right now in the history, all 433 episodes of the Wrestle Talk podcast, the intro to our very next portion of the show.
All right. If you're wearing any kind of hat wear, we ask that you please remove it and please rise if you're able on our national anthem and honor this great country, America, damn it.
You know something, Chris? Somewhere when it comes down to it, I know Joe Lance is definitely listening to what we've got going on here, but I've got to throw something out here. In all the years I've been on this program, in any form, Aaron Wallace has had the two most relevant comments about our national anthem that I think I've ever seen on the program. The first one is somebody, and like I said, if you can go ahead and bring up the first of the two here, somebody actually asking for us to hit Roseanne. Hit it. That's one of the things to go. I would never imagine somebody wanting us to throw that to Roseanne. Number two, it brings tears to his eyes and a big headache. Ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Wallace bringing us some commentary here. And thank you, Aaron, for bringing forth your comments here this evening. Again, I think you echo a lot of the viewers of the Wrestle Talk podcast when you talk about the national anthem. And I still say we have a poll. I know it's kind of hard to do, but we have to figure out Carl Lewis or Roseanne. Which one would be the most memorable? And I know we always have our media team looking for new versions of the national anthem to make sure that everybody does pay homage to the great country of the United States of America. I also want to give a shout out to all of our first responders and all those great men and women defending our country each and every week so we can enjoy what we have and also making it a point to be here to bring you the Wrestle Talk podcast each and every week right here on the program. You know something, Chris? There's a lot of things going on in the world of pro wrestling. One of them is I wonder where our co-hosts are.
I don't know. Justin just sent him as his shoot job, his day job. He's got apparently the weather's brought out the crazy. So,
well, right now there's a lot of things going on there, but as we're taking care of this right now, you know, Chris, let's go ahead. I know there's some things that you're talking about. Let's go ahead and throw it to our good friend DJ Money, who's a strong supporter of the show, I might add, to bring forward that timeless classic of the Wrestle Talk podcast, that being the one, the only, the high spot segment. So DJ Money, if you please.
Make sure I was on the right one.
Mic check. Yeah. All right. Wrestle Talk podcast. DJ Money. Yeah. Let's go. Welcome to High Spots, where we pop news like lamb chops. We dog shop, coming through the screens of a laptop. And non-stop like I'm running speakers of blacktop. We hit hard like chair shots and backdrops. Like a clock flash, look like a belly flop, now that's hard. We up to speed while they stay slow. Wrestle Talk Podcast, now they know. We about to start the show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you need any kind of music, you need kind of cover art, you need any kind of graphics, make it a point to check out DJ Money. He's got a lot of great information. You can also send a message to the Wrestle Talk Podcast through social media. We'll put you in contact with DJ Money. He's got a lot of great things that he can offer you, and at a very reasonable price, I might add. You know something, Chris? I'm going to level with you. Before we even get into the first High Spots segment question here tonight, was it me, or did it just seem like there were way too many people at ringside last night to close out Monday Night Raw?
That's what someone was talking about. They were talking about how apparently, we can talk about it later, but the draft is going to be kind of like Hunter's, like wipe the slate clean and start fresh, and putting the Judgment Day out there with the Bloodline, and then you had the LWO, and then you had Sammy and them.
I got to tell you, there were times last night at the end of Monday Night Raw, I could not figure out who was fighting who and where and why and how.
It kind of reminds you, remember when in the Attitude Era, right before the Attitude Era, that the WWE, you had the Nation of Domination, and then Los Boricuas, and then they had DOA, and then the Truth was it the Truth Commission?
Truth Commission, yeah. Well, you know one thing too, and I really found this interesting too last night, and I know we're going to talk about it here in the High Spot segments in a couple of, and I just want to throw this out there. Did you notice I want to say it's about 2 hours in, and again, I'm not trying to be a spoiler here. If you haven't had a chance to watch Monday Night Raw yet, you need to make sure to watch it on your DVR so we can kind of bring you up to speed here tonight on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. But did you notice that of all people to talk about the idea of splitting up tag teams, is Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford?
I mean, I don't know. That's in the rotation for the High Spot segment. So
yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, it just really kind of struck me that, and then you turned around. Oh,
there's the question.
And we didn't even have to use the randomizer. That's
right. Well, I mean, when you see a question and you bring it up, I mean, I guess we got to just go ahead and go with it. But yeah, that's the talk, is that they're going to split them up, put one on SmackDown and one on Raw, and you always think of tag teams, like when they split, you're always like, oh, which one's going to become Shawn Michaels? Which one's going to become Marty Jannetty? Which one's going to become this? Which one's going to become that? Well, Montez Ford is so super athletic and has such great charisma, but Angelo Dawkins is the same way.
You know, here's what I think, Chris, and then this might be a little far-fetched. To me, I think Montez is the standout. Got a lot of ability, athletic, can talk, has charisma, he has the whole package. Check this out. Takes a little bit of planning. We see Otis officially become Otis.
Good Lord.
And then we see, check this out. We potentially, and we saw it many, many years ago. What about the idea of Angelo Dawkins and Chad Gable? Because if you think about it, when they had a team back in the past, if I'm not mistaken, it was Angelo Dawkins, and for a time, a man used to be known as Sawyer Fulton, who is now known as Madman Fulton. And I believe they had a very similar style of wrestling at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, could it happen? Yeah, I really do. But to me, it really struck me. Are they wanting to put that right out there? Are they wanting to tease the idea? Or are they going to give us, as the WWE's been known for, are they going to tease us with that and wind up splitting Elias and Rick Boogs.
yeah,
Though that would make a whole lot of sense because if you think about it, before his injury, and I go back and I'm really kind of bringing some old school stuff back tonight, do we see the return of Rick Boogs and Shinsuke Nakamura?
possibly, but I think Shinsuke needs to go out kind of on his own. And I think what I read somewhere where it's not just you could be drafted to and from NXT, so that's always going to be interesting because why not send someone down? I mean, I'm not saying that you do it, but do you send Angelo Dawkins down to NXT for a little bit just to, freshen things up? I don't know. There's a lot of ways they can go. I'm just not sure where they're going to go.
Well, that's one of the things a lot of people have been talking about the draft. The one thing that surprises me, though, Chris, and for years, I mean, again, I don't know if this is a Triple H thing or they're trying to, as Vince is trying to shake things up again, is the idea of why are we starting the draft on a Friday night?
Because it's closer to it's closer to the each other instead of doing one day on Monday and one day on Friday. And I'm sure it had something to do with Fox wanting them to start it then, you know what I mean?
I could see that, Chris. I really could. I mean, again, there's going to be some other questions we're going to talk about here as well tonight on the program. But again, this is one of those that's really kind of popped up here in the idea of who are we going to see with the draft? You know something, Chris? And I was just thinking about this. We should have, and again, I know the Night Owl is going to be listening. He's probably going to post a message within about 8 seconds of me saying this. I think that we should have the WTP draft. And the idea of things like we draft what version of the national anthem we want. Do we want Roseanne? Do we want Carl Lewis? Do we want something completely different? Who knows? Maybe we have brand new hosts to the program. Maybe we have brand new segments. Who knows? But like I said, one thing I will say is it seems like the draft always does get people fired up. And we're going to see a lot going on here when it comes to the draft. Now, Chris, since we talked about the first one, and we've got things done now, and we know that the Maestro is not going to mess with the randomizer anymore, let's go ahead and hit the randomizer and bring another question up, because I know the fans of the Wrestle Talk podcast want to hear what we have to say.
Hold on, one. I gotta find
where it comes. I got. All right.
We're gonna keep the draft talk. We're gonna keep the draft talk going here. Do you think the WWE will benefit short term, long term, or not at all? I think it's going. Okay, here's my. If they can keep to the draft and they have two separate rosters or three separate rosters, or whatever you want to call it, if they want two separate rosters, Raw, SmackDown, no overlay, the overlap. The only people that can go back and forth essentially should be the tag champions, the universal champion of the world, and so basically Sammy and KO. But they need to have a specific brand that they're landing on. So once they're done, when they win and if they lose the titles, or they split it, they have a place to go. Same with Roman and the women's tag team champion, they can go back and forth. That's or you put all the women's tag teams on one roster. But then you dilute your roster, and so.
Well, you know something, Chris? I want to look at a couple things here. Number one, I'm going to tell you right now, to me, I think, and this is going to sound weird, I'm going to give you two answers. To me, will it benefit short term? Yes. Do I think that the draft is going to help the WWE long term? No. And here's why. To me, they've got to get some new faces into the product. People have grown very tired. They feel as though, to a certain degree, that the WWE has gotten very stagnant. And you need to start seeing some new bodies coming into the WWE. Now, does that mean we get some people from NXT? Could be. Does it mean we get some people who may have been in AEW? Maybe. But I think right now, as it stands, I don't see the draft helping in the long term. I really don't.
I mean, yes, and I mean, does the draft ever really help long term? I think, like I said, I think Hunter is now going to have this. Basically, this is kind of Hunter's reset of all the storylines, because Hunter came in kind of mid-year, and everyone always says WrestleMania is the ultimate reset. It's like WrestleMania is like the season finale.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna see, and you can even tell it by last night. The matches were won. They were really all of them were pretty decent. Miz and Seth, they had a freaking amazing ass match. Ray and Solo, and also the 6-man tag at the end, which kind of like,
bro,
and it's just it's a reset. And if they need to be able to stick to, okay, you can't just show up on Raw for a random segment if you're a SmackDown superstar. That's my opinion, and I mean,
no Justin Wade rant tonight.
And well, I mean, I'm sure Justin Wade has a rant on it, but he's running a tad bit behind. So we'll
something we should have. We heard about that last week. This week should be the Chris Rodell rant.
Oh, I don't rant about anything. I mean, I could rant about things, but
St. Louis Blues.
Well, that's always depressing. So,
well, you know something, Chris? I mean, a lot of people are going to talk about things here. We're going to go ahead. We're not going to worry about this randomizer stuff. We've got a lot of questions related to Monday Night Raw, and we're going to go ahead real quick. Let's throw another question up here. A lot of our questions tonight were focused around all these great things that took place this past evening on Raw. But there's
I'm actually kind of running things through. Believe it or not, I have a wheel behind the scenes that I'm using to kind of pick. But I know which one you want to go to.
That wasn't the one I was wanting to go to, but that's okay. I think we do need to address.
Oh wait,
that's all right. No, let's go ahead and stay with Solo Sikoa here, man. We can come back and talk about Trish Stratus here in just a minute. But this is one thing we got to look at here, and these are both in a weird way. And yeah, I'm making a comparison here between Solo Sikoa and Trish Stratus. Roll with me here. Right now, the question is Solo Sikoa the future of the WWE? And for the record, fans are booing you, Chris. You need to put it up on the screen. I got to go with Jared here. They're booing you right here. Jared Shannon putting it out there, booing you at 7:27 p.m.
It happens.
That's true. Now, is Solo Sikoa the future of the WWE? I'm going to tell you right now, you would ask me this a month ago. No, I say yes. And here's a reason why. They are feeding him top-level wrestlers. He's been able to go out there. He's been able to stay at the level. He's kept it simple. He's gone out there. He's found ways either with the crescent kick or the Samoan spike. Simply put, is Solo Sikoa the future of the WWE? I believe so. And I'm going to tell you right now, and again, I kind of see what some people have been saying. Could Solo Sikoa be the future of the Bloodline?
Possibly. I mean, anything could happen. Did you see that stare down that they had? That stare down with Rhea Ripley and Solo Sikoa last night?
Yikes! And you know something, Chris? I'm gonna
Paul Heyman looked generally scared. I know it's probably part of the whole storyline, but man, it's just kind of like, do we have a problem here?
Well, you know one thing too. Oh, Jared, you're thinking like me. It's a great thing to say here. The idea of where if he becomes the new face of the Bloodline, give him Paul Heyman. That way you can keep him that strong, silent type that's going to be able to go out there and he's going to – I mean, could you imagine, just for a second here, Chris, could you imagine matchups between Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa? Those would be, to me, those would be unreal matchups. And you know me, I don't use that kind of terminology too often. That could be a phenomenal matchup if done properly.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I find it hard to be like say he's the future because that's like I don't know if we've seen the next future of the WWE yet. We're getting there close, but eventually. So I mean, and what I find really funny is that apparently at Night of Champions, that is exactly 1,000 days in Roman Reigns' title reign. So,
Well,
but I still think think Roman goes to SummerSlam though. I don't think you drop it in Jeddah or Riyadh or whatever they are.
Well, something, Chris, and I was just thinking about this here too. You've got Solo Sikoa. Somebody else that's really kind of made me change my opinion of them lately? And that's Carmelo Hayes.
Oh, yeah. Carmelo's got on lockdown there on.
Though, Chris, I'm going to tell you right now, he managed to impress me at Stand and Deliver. And here's how. To me, I felt that Carmelo Hayes was a little too brash. He was a little too opinionated. He was a little too eccentric. But when he went out there and delivered, no pun intended, Stand and Deliver, he showed me something. He's got a swagger. He's got an attitude. And now that he's got the championship on his shoulder, he's got, I believe, Trick Williams beside him. You have a man who now, being, as he says himself, the A champion, you're in a situation right now that Carmelo Hayes, and this is something that I don't think you've ever heard me compare. To me, Carmelo Hayes will become not only the future of the NXT, but I think he's the future of the WWE, and he very well, if given the trajectory that I think they're going to, he's going to be on a level of a John Cena or a Dwayne Johnson. I think he is that good. He is that young. He is that talented. We could see the next generation of the WWE in Carmelo Hayes.
We kind of in a group chat we kind of made the Carmelo Hayes versus Braun Breaker match. The loser goes to the main roster, basically.
Oh,
but I'm not. Carmelo's a better heel than a face, and I don't know what Braun is. So,
I really like what happened, and again, this is almost like a kind of a slower version of The Rock and Bret Hart to me.
Could be.
You could see at Stand and Deliver that Braun wanted to tear his head off, but he didn't. And in one night, you saw Carmelo Hayes being cemented as the good guy, at least for the time being. And you see Braun Breaker as the monster. And I'm going to tell you right now, Jared, while I thought I could agree with you, I don't think so. I cannot get, and Chris, maybe it's just my age, maybe it's just the idea I don't get it, but I don't get the Grayson Waller effect. I just don't. Can you explain the Grayson Waller effect to me? Or any of our viewers, can you explain it right here? We'll put it here on the screen if you got it. What is the Grayson Waller effect?
I don't know. I mean, he's talented. He can talk. That's half of the game when you're in the WWE is you can be able to talk. So, I mean, I don't know. And Jared also puts in that he thinks Braun can be a good in-between guy. But is he going to get lost in the shuffle in the WWE main roster?
You know what? I'm going to say this. And again, I'm back to agreeing with Jared. I'm going to probably flip-flop all night here with the discussion on Jared. I think as they say, and Chris, you can bring it up here, Braun Breaker is NXT. He gets called up to Raw or SmackDown in the draft. You bring up the quote from Jared here again, just a second. You bring up the quote. As soon as he gets up, the crowd goes mild. I think it's one of those right now that you have to be very careful with Braun Breaker, or you're going to run into the same issue that a lot of people in the WWE have. They have this huge meteoric rise in NXT, and then it just kind of fizzles in the WWE.
I think Carmelo is probably the most main roster ready that NXT has.
That is true.
But I want him to give. I want to give Carmelo a little bit of a run with the NXT title because he deserves it.
That is true. He is a phenomenal in-ring competitor. And you know something else too. And again, I don't even think we've really truly scratched the surface. Another one to look at. Could we see another title for title type situation with Carmelo Hayes and Wes Lee? Or another idea is if you see somebody like a Dragon Lee take the championship, do we see Carmelo Hayes and Dragon Lee, or do we see Carmelo Hayes and any number of competitors? And you know something else too, Chris, and I'm just going to throw this one out here, a name that hasn't been mentioned in a while. What happened to Cameron Grimes?
That's a good one. I think that man, they missed that opportunity with Cameron, bringing him up when he was Jared thinks they should call it Pretty Deadly. I guess.
You know, I think they should change the name from Pretty Deadly to Pretty Awesome. That team has grown on me. They really have. The team has grown on me. I like the whole deal. And this is going to sound weird, but they just have this kind of natural it factor to me, like the New Day. There's just something that makes you want to gravitate to them and go along with them. And I really feel that they've got. I mean, their in-ring ability is not the best. But when you have that charisma, as I believe many people said, when you have that it factor, and Pretty Deadly has that it factor. Now, since Chris has got things taken care of, let's go back to the question I was wanting to go to before we talked about Solo Sikoa, and that is talking about Trish Stratus. Who would imagine in 2023 we're talking once again about Trish Stratus? Let's throw the question back.
I'm trying to find it now. It was.
Come on! Now you put it up there before.
I did.
Krakoa, and now you've lost the question.
I wonder if I hope I didn't. I probably accidentally deleted it. So.
Don't tell me you deleted that question.
Or Jeremy came in there behind the scenes and erased it for me. So I will take the hit on that one. That was my fault.
Okay, here's the question. Chris is going to find it after I talk about it, but that's okay. That's the wonders of the Wrestle Talk podcast. We're always here. We're always
live. There it is.
Yeah, we found it. What are your thoughts about the Trish Stratus promo on Monday Night Raw? I'm going to say this nicely. Yes, please. Trish Stratus went out there last night and delivered. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's a difference. And again, I'm seeing a lot of commentary here. There's a completely different style of match between Charlotte and Trish and Becky and Trish. To me, there's a completely different style.
I kind of agree with. I hate to say this, but I kind of agree with Jared. I'm like, it's a nostalgia act. It's either gonna sell seats for Backlash or it's gonna sell seats for SummerSlam or sell seats for something. Because
Chris, I'm going to tell you right now, and I just want to throw this one at you. You've got so many wild cards in this whole situation. We talked about it last week at Champions Clash. We talk about the idea of you have Becky and Trish. One that you honestly could say is probably one of the most recognizable faces, as she said last night in her promo. Probably one of maybe a handful that really carried the banner of women's wrestling. Now, again, a lot of people are going to say that there were a lot of other wrestlers, and I agree. I mean, you got the Litas, you got the Victorias, you got the Mickie Jameses, you got the Jazzes, you got the Molly Hollies, among others. But Trish and Lita pulled it to the forefront. And I'm going to tell you right now, not only do we see, to me, do I think we see Becky versus Trish, I think we see Lita versus Trish.
No, I can.
And I think we see Lita versus Becky Lynch.
She was spitting some good. I guess you want to say facts. I mean,
she was spitting truth.
She
wasn't. I mean, again, going back to our good friend Big Daddy P, who we're going to see in a few minutes, she was spitting nothing but truth.
Yeah, I am kind of it's good for like the big shows, the big like WrestleManias of the year, but it's 2023. Let's give that promo spot to Becky Lynch or give it to anybody else. But
Chris, I'm going to tell you right now. Right now, to me, you need something to keep Becky Lynch relevant. The fans, pardon me, the idea of where when you're looking at this, you're looking at it from a perspective.
I can see that.
Thank you. You're looking at it from a perspective of you got to kind of keep her on the back burner. But you've also got to look at people like Asuka. You've got to look at people like Bayley. You've got to look at a lot of people who are still right there in the middle of the pack. And if you go look at Bianca Belair, she's defeated Becky Lynch. I believe she's defeated Charlotte. She's defeated Asuka. She's defeated Bayley. Who's left for Charlotte to really go after?
That's why I hope she stays away for a while. I mean, let Rhea Ripley run with it for a while. I mean, I just,
you know, one thing too, I see the quote you have up here. What do you think about the idea of this, Chris? And again, playing a little bit of armchair booking here. What do you think about the idea of down the road, it's all a besties thing, and Lita doing something she hasn't done pretty much her entire tenure in the WWE outside of being with Edge and being a bad guy?
Possibly. I don't know.
I think Lita did some of her best work when she was with Edge. I really do.
That is true. But when you have Edge I don't think Lita comes across as a natural heel.
Oh, please. Lita came across as a huge heel to me.
Yeah, but she had Edge as a crutch.
Oh, no, I beg to differ. I think both of them played off each other very well. But you know something, Chris, when it comes down to it, I think it's one of those where it's giving us another avenue. I think it's one of those, it's kind of filling some voids until we get the draft done, until we get some new matchups to be there, to get a few weeks behind them. And then you've got this big money matchup. And again, it's one of those where a lot of people are disagreeing with me. That's totally fine. But I think it's one of those where this is one of those transitional things that's going to give us something that people are going to want to see in the short term. Maybe give them a match, maybe give them 3. You know, WWE is always good about giving us the rematch to the rematch to the rematch. But when it comes down to it, I think this is a great transitional piece. I really do. So, but right now, like I said, we've got a lot of things here on the high spots. I know we're going to have Big Daddy P here in just a few minutes, Chris. Anything else that's really on your mind this evening?
I mean, in the women's division, I think some of the NXT women that are down there are that are on the horizon. I'm talking about like Roxanne Perez and maybe a Cora Jade. I know they're really young, but Roxanne Perez has shown a lot.
And you know something, real quick sidebar here, Chris. I've been looking at the viewership here and looking at the commentary here. And again, make it a point, if you enjoyed the Wrestle Talk podcast, make sure to share your comments. And Jared, we agreed earlier on, so it's not disagree with Luke all night. Trust me, you can't wear a shirt like that. We agreed in the beginning, so that's not going to fly here on the Wrestle Talk podcast here tonight. So
at least you're getting, because I get some with Jared. Me and Jared get into some arguments about things.
You already got booed, Chris. I don't know if anybody on the Wrestle Talk podcast outside of maybe Joe Lance that's gotten booed faster than you did.
Jared's a big fan of the guns, and I am not a big fan of the guns in AEW. So.
You know what? I'm going to throw this one at you, Chris, since you're going to talk about them. Who wins the matchup? A little bit of fantasy warfare, if you will. The Guns of 2023 versus the Guns of 95.
Oh, the Guns of 2023, obviously, because Bart Gunn was terrible.
What? Bart Gunn knocked out Steve Dr. Death Williams and completely
got knocked the fuck out by Butterbean in 30 seconds.
So it made for interesting WrestleMania television.
Brawl for All is the worst concept I've ever seen in my entire life.
Chris, there's a lot of other things in the world of pro wrestling that would be there. There's a lot of things on wrestling television that could have been there.
I disagree. I disagree with Jared on this one.
The Guns tag champions for 6 months. Nah. And again, I'm an FTR guy. I think that Wheeler and Harwood are both great wrestlers. You know what I really would have loved to have seen? I really would have loved to see the idea where, and again, we're going to talk about FTR here in a second. One thing I want to see, since I didn't get the Guns versus the Acclaim, the rematch, I want to see FTR take on the Acclaimed.
Scissor me, daddy.
I said I could see that. Another one I would like.
That's going to get clipped. That's going to get clipped off.
Yeah. Well, something too, and we're talking about this here as well. Do we see, kind of like we were talking about last week, do we see a possibility with the idea of maybe a Forbidden Door 2 kind of thing? Do we see FTR against Aussie Open?
That match would be really good.
I think that would be a very good match as well. Honestly, to me, I think it's one of those where you really need to give the Acclaimed a serious. I think that giving the Acclaimed a chance with FTR would really cement them in the tag team division. And I think that would be a great thing here. And while we're at it, and Chris, I'm going to go ahead and throw this to you, and then we're going to go ahead and go. Since Garrett seems to be throwing out the good questions here tonight, who do you think FTR should go after? Or who should go after FTR?
I don't know, because, besides the Guns and the Acclaimed, you got secondary. I would still love to see a Young Bucks FTR match. I think that would be good.
One I think that would definitely be an interesting matchup, and I think would make them ecstatic. What do you think? I know it's a different time and it's a different situation, but what about Darby Allin and Sting?
Yeah, I think Darby Allin's got his hands full with MJF. I
think right now MJF has his hands full with everybody.
Yes, he's got the 4 pillars. He's got the other 3 pillars to worry about. Jungle Boy, and Sammy Guevara. That is true.
Now, Chris, since he's throwing it out there here, and we got 2 of them here. I want to go ahead and throw. I want to throw Aaron Wallace's comment out here for just a minute, and we're going to be joined by Big Daddy P and hopefully by the CEO here in a few minutes. An Invasion 2.0, FTR versus the Usos. We talked about that when it came to the best tag teams in the world. And I'm going to tell you right now, would that be a great match? Yes. Personally, my view, because I have to say a tag team wrestling purist, I would love to see FTR walk away with that particular victory, just because I think that they are, as the nickname says, I think they are living legends. I think they're a great tag team. I think they are what are going to bring tag team wrestling back to a forefront in a lot of different avenues. Another one, Chris, I want to throw out there, and let's go ahead to be fair, because we do want to be fair to as many of our viewers as we can. Do you think Edge will have a run with Christian Cage? Here's my thought. Personally, do I love E&C? Yeah. Do I see it happening? No. And the reason why is this. I just do not see right now, I do not see Christian fitting into what Hunter has planned. Hunter does have a belief in the younger talent and bringing them forward and bringing forward the next generation of wrestling. And as much as I hate to say it, I don't think we see a run. I think we might see a match, but I don't think we see a run of the 2 of them. Chris, your thoughts?
I agree. Christian kind of has gone away since his that whatever match he had with Jungle Boy, and he kind of came back with Luchasaurus again. But I think once Christian's run in AEW is done, I think he's going to go back to being a nostalgia act where he comes in for special stuff, Hall of Fame, stuff like that.
That is true. And you know something, Chris, you talk about Luchasaurus, you talk about Christian Cage. I want to throw the last High Spots question up here. And this is one I just saw literally minutes before we went to air. I was thankful that we managed to get this one to the media team so we can get a graphic made for it. Talking about AEW. Now, we know AEW has Dynamite. They have Rampage. It's on regular broadcast cable television. We also have Dark and Dark Elevation. But I've been reading, and again, this was literally within about the last hour, that supposedly later this summer, there will be a program called AEW Collision, which is going to take place on Saturdays. I have to agree, and again, this goes against your t-shirt, Jared. I agree with Jared. I think the idea of AEW, now, while it's great that they're giving all these wrestlers an opportunity and a platform to wrestle on, this technically, because AEW owns ROH, this technically would be the 6th AEW produced platform on a weekly basis.
Apparently, it's Turner that wants them to do the show on Saturdays.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those, Chris, we're almost getting to where we're in the WWF, I'm going to say WWF, not WWE, of the late 90s when you had Raw and SmackDown and Heat and Velocity and Jacked and Metal and all these different programs.
And apparently, it's not going to be a show that runs or it's not going to be a show that's taped. It's going to be a live show on Saturdays.
No, I think it's one of those where it's just one of those things of where I don't think, while it's a great idea on paper, I really don't think we need to see more AEW programming. If you're going to do something, and again, this is a Luke Roberts rant since Justin Wade's not here yet. This is a Luke Roberts rant. You know, to me, I like AEW. I genuinely like what AEW is bringing to the table. They're bringing something different to professional wrestling. But you know what I think you need to do? Forget building a third or a fourth or a fifth program. Build some of the things you have. Build things like, I don't know, maybe Battle of the Belts. Give that more than maybe a once every 4 to 6 months, 2 to 3 months. Make it relevant. Make it mean something.
I mean, could it eventually lead to where AEW has two distinct? I mean, they kind of have two distinct brands right now, anyway. But do you have a specified roster for Dynamite? Do you have a specified roster for Saturday Night?
I think it's one of those, honestly, Chris, when you're looking at this, you're looking at it from a perspective of, I don't think that you need, I mean, you've got a large enough roster as is. We don't need, and again, I agree with what a lot of people are saying, in the idea that when it comes down to it, you're in a situation where you've got a lot of faces that aren't getting a lot of ring time. And you need to give, I mean, again, where are people like Aaron Solo getting ring time? Where are people like QT Marshall getting ring time? Where are people like Action Andretti getting ring time?
Dark.
Yeah, but I mean, again, these are people that very well could be the future of your product. And we need to start seeing some of those faces being proper. Now, we're getting some of them, and I appreciate that. But we need to get more of them brought forward. We really do. Now, you know something, Chris? I know here in just a couple minutes, we're going to be joined by Big Daddy P. We're going to talk about the snippets of truth. But you know something, Chris? I want to take just a minute here, and I want to give a shout out to a couple of promotions here in the St. Louis area. I want to give a shout out first to our good friends at Dynamo Pro. They are having their annual Cinco de Mayo event. I believe it is on May the 6th, Cherokee and Iowa Street. Make it a point to come out. It's going to be a great day of professional wrestling action. Also, you want to make it a point to check out SICW with the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup, also recognizing Larry Matisick and the legendary Tony Costa on May 13th at the Aviator Hotel in South St. Louis. I do know that our broadcast colleagues, the Night Owl Renee Martinez and Sonny Money Mayo, are going to be in the house. I also know that I've heard through the grapevine, that our broadcast colleague, the maestro Jeremy Karp, is going to be in the house. There's going to be a ton of professional wrestling personalities here in St. Louis. And if you're anywhere near the St. Louis area, if you're within driving distance of the St. Louis area, you would be very mistaken if you didn't have a chance to catch either of those great events, because you can't go wrong.
And also to top, I know we got a lot of promotions in St. Louis. I know that's not a bad thing in general.
That is true, Chris. That is true.
Because we just had St. Louis Anarchy this past Friday. The legendary Dingo made his return this past Friday.
Very true, very true. And like I said, we also have to look at it too. And
Glory Pro. I can't talk. Glory Pro is going to be at the pageant on Sunday, April the 30th. I'm looking here. They've got trying to see. They got a couple of names. They got Shaza McKenzie, Dak Draper, our friend Tootie Lynn.
Very true.
Wait. Listen to this match for the Crown of Glory title match. Kenny Alfonso, Mike Outlaw, and Camaro Jackson.
Wow. That's going to be a great matchup. Alpha Omega returning to in-ring competition, but this time from one another.
And then I'm looking through their match card. Johnny Glory, Johnny Knight, John Morrison, whatever you want to call him. Johnny Glory and Raheem De La Suede.
Okay.
It's. I mean. We got a lot of great action. We got MMWAs, obviously.
And Chris, we got to throw one out there too. On May the 6th, after Dynamo Pro Wrestling at the Cinco de Mayo Festival, you can make it a point to in Troy, Missouri. World League Wrestling is going to be presenting the Door to Destiny Rumble. It's a 15-man over-the-top rope battle royal here. And, I mean, again, it's going to be a great opportunity to see a lot of great pro wrestling here in the St. Louis area. Also, PWE will be in action on May 6th as well. I believe that's featuring a death match between Mephisto and Akira, the Death Samurai, managed by Bill Alfonso.
I believe that's the one that's Bill Alfonso's coming in. The vet Jack Vaughn is also going to be in the house against Benjamin Trust.
It's going to be again, right now, when we get in the month of May, it's almost like we're bypassing spring and we're moving into summer here with Dynamo Pro Wrestling, with SICW, with MMWA, with Glory Pro, with St. Louis Anarchy, with World League Wrestling, with Pro Wrestling Epic. You name it, a lot of great pro wrestling action to be taking place.
And while we're giving some shout outs to people, I know you're incredibly happy. One of our friends from our referee friends, HD Daniels, has made his debut at Ohio Valley Wrestling and was on his first quote unquote pay-per-view that was this past Saturday, and every match was in the cage.
And actually, a little bit of sidebar there, Chris. I want to give a shout out to another one of the men that has had an opportunity to sit down and talk to me about the world of refereeing. Not only was HD Daniels involved in that event, but he's also was in the main event of that particular event. And again, shout out to HD Daniels of Dynamo Pro Wrestling and countless.
And you gotta love this sentiment. No matter what promotion anyone chooses, it's going to be fun, and everyone's busting their asses.
That is true. That is true. I agree with you 100%, Jared. And see, we can agree, Jared. Even though you say we can't, it comes down to it. We can't agree. But you know one thing, Chris, we can agree about, and that
you know who Jared's favorite referee is? Christopher Miles.
I thought his favorite referee was Chris Rodell.
No, he's never seen me ref. He's only seen me ring announce.
Hashtag Chris Rodell for referee.
Oh no, those days are over, and these knees can't hold up anymore.
Well, you know something, Chris. Like I said, we've talked a lot about things here in the high spots, and again, thank you to all the great viewers who've given us comments. You know, Chris, we need to go ahead real quick, and we're going to be joined by Jon Scrutch here just a few minutes. The JICW Intercontinental Champion. But before we do, let's go ahead here real quick. I know that the CEO is hoping he's going to be able to join us here in just a couple minutes, but I want to go ahead and bring in a man that we see almost every week here on the Wrestle Talk podcast, a man who's pretty much become a fixture for many, many years here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. So, Chris, if you can go ahead and bring up, and I know Jared wants to disagree with me, but ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead. Snippets of Truth with Big Daddy P right here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. All right.
Big Daddy P doing his bobblehead impersonation.
Hey man, I got to do something with this big old thing.
Well, Big Daddy, I got to ask you, how you doing, my friend? I know this week has been a very busy week for you. I know you got a lot of things going on. How you been, my friend?
A little bit crazy, to say the least, man. It's been nonstop. I've kind of had, matter of fact, for all you prayer warriors out there, you can add my hips to your prayers, because at night when I'm trying to rest and I try and lay on my left or right, it's kind of been sore. So I haven't been sleeping good, but I've been really busy with work. So I've just been, knocking things. Man, I've produced menus this week, videos, audio discs, 3 websites. It's been a very, very, very busy week. Praise God. So there's just a lot more work to be done.
Well, Big Daddy P, I mean, again, I know that you are a very busy man. You are a world traveler when it comes to a variety of different avenues. I do want to go ahead here real quick and talk to you about a couple things here in we've had a lot of messages come through this week, and surprisingly enough, several of them have come through the Wrestle Talk podcast family. But before we do, I want to go ahead and share something. It was posted on social media earlier in the week, and I want to share this. For many of those that know, a past guest of the show, Eric Allen, a very accomplished pro wrestler, very accomplished in the arts world, very talented artist. I want to share this little piece of information with you. On the 12th of April, last week, his daughter suffered a severe burn injury, leaving severe second and third degree burns to a large portion of her upper body. From my understanding, this is a young lady who is just about ready to turn 6 years old. Also has already had, I believe it is 1 skin graft, pretty major one. And I think they're talking about the possibility of a second skin graft needing to take place this coming Monday. I know there's a GoFundMe set up, and I know several wrestlers here in the greater St. Louis area. Just a few to think of here. Wrestlers like Mephisto, Brandon Aarons, Benjamin Trust, countless others. I know Chris could probably give a few more as well. Have been promoting this GoFundMe.
We talking about for Eric Allen?
Yeah, and again, really a horrific situation, and like I said, I want to extend our thoughts and prayers to the Allen family. Again, we don't want anything to happen to anybody. I mean, we're all here for however long we need to be, but when it comes down to it, to see somebody that young have to go through something like that, it's really, really gut-wrenching and really a sad thing. So.
And there's a lot of people who are asking how God could allow this to happen. And let me tell you, when you see the fruit of what comes out of this child after this situation, then maybe you'll be reminded that the story hasn't changed. The Jews suffered significantly. They paid a very heavy price for their disobedience. I'm not saying this daughter did anything like that. It has nothing to do with it. But God can use any situation he wants. And he says, for what you meant for evil, God turns it to good. So you just watch the results of this situation and what comes out of it, and you'll see that in the end, that not only is God in control, but he's going to get the glory for this situation. And thank God that she's alive. At the same time, if she would have gone home, she would have been in better position than she is in now. She's going to have to go through some suffering. Her body is going to suffer in ways that she never imagined, but he's going to carry her through it. And I'm pretty sure that anybody who hears this story, they have to be moved to understand this is a child, you know, and when something happens to a child, you know, if he doesn't take her home, if he keeps her around, there's a good reason for it. And usually what comes out is her love and appreciation for everyone loving her. It's a response. It's a natural response. And so I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's definitely something we want to pray about. We also lost somebody today, pretty important in the Christian world. Charles Stanley passed away today. So for those that were under his teaching or listened to him on Sundays, there were a lot of people who were older who couldn't get to church, who watched him on TV, and his ministry was all over the world. So again, and of course, what's going on in Chicago, man, you know, it's all over the whole world.
And then you got those two people that, the kid from Kansas, the child from Kansas City, 15 years old, 16 years old, not very old, rang the wrong doorbell, was going to pick up his brother, I believe, or his cousin or something, and rang a wrong doorbell, and the guy decided he wanted to shoot through the door, and
wow.
And then there was another one in New York, upstate New York. She was I want to say she was either with her friends or as a delivery driver, and turned around in a driveway, and the guy was scared and ended up her losing her life, and she was only like 20. So this world's gone nuts, man. I mean,
but do not forget that while there is nuttiness within this world, there's also an opportunity to love through it, and it's hard and it's not easy. Because a price was paid, okay? A price was paid, whether if people want to choose to believe it or not. It's a free gift. It's available to anyone. Hey, what's up, man?
Gentlemen, how are we tonight?
And apparently Seattle's popping off too, because people have lost the weather's made people lose their minds up there.
It's 38 this morning.
Hey, but don't lose hope. Don't lose hope, because again, although there might be some suffering tonight, joy comes in the morning. And even sometimes for those, they suffer in the morning, they've got to go to a full-time job working for somebody else. I haven't had to do that since 2014, man. I'm a blessed
Good for you.
man.
Yes.
So, you know, but you then take that and you pass that along to somebody else. I've talked to 6 people who are starting brand new businesses right now at a time like this. And so that's really freaking cool, you know, and matter of fact, I might have a couple sponsors too, who are going to come on who can talk about what it is that they're doing. And one of them, I can't even say nothing yet because we just got the site going, but there's still some more pieces that have to be put in. Maybe next week I'll talk about it, but it's awesome. And you know me, I'm a promoter. That's what I do. Okay. So I can't say I'm not a promoter because I do it 24/7, but the things that we promote, what they add to this society is what's needed. So don't lose hope. Even in the midst of the craziness things that are going on, it just gives us a greater opportunity to pray through it, because there are people that are going to be able to and those that aren't. And anybody who can't handle it, he's going to take home. So the fact that he's got that 6-year-old girl covered in people that love her, and she's alive, and she's as long as she makes it, man, all you can do is just keep praying and hoping that's the end result of that situation. But in the meantime, we still have a job to do. And it's a really important job because we can't get caught up with all the emotion. It's really easy to get emotional at times like this. I understand the 38 degrees, brother. Tennessee actually kind of had a nice day today, but it's just been an overall pretty much cold season. But importantly, and what really the greatest snippet of truth today out of all is this: Jesus took naps. He liked Jesus. Now, when he was in the boat And I'm getting fired up now. When he was in the boat and there were storms all around him, what did they do? They freaked out. And they asked him, why aren't you freaking out? He said, I'm in the boat with you. So while we see this insanity and this craziness go on, don't you forget who's in the boat with us. We are not alone. So don't lose hope, because there's always hope. And it could always be worse.
Well, Big Daddy P, I want to go ahead and take just a second here too. We do have some more out there, and I'm again kind of share some information here. I want to give a shout out. I know the Night Owl's not here. Want to always keep Joe Lance in your thoughts. Hardcore Hoss has really been dealing with some issues behind the scenes. We're not going to get into huge discussion about it, but he really has been having a tough time the last few days. I'm going to be perfectly upfront, kind of pulling the curtain back a little bit. I don't really know if a lot of people know this or not, but my aunt passed away this morning. Was a lot of health issues. Justin and Chris have known my family for years, and a lot of the issues that my aunt suffered was very similar to what happened to my mom. And I've also got a very good friend of mine outside of the world of professional wrestling who is looking at having a pretty noticeable surgery next week as well. Again, a lot of things are going on in the world. And again, it's one of those, we always want to make it a point to take some time here and talk about the snippets of truth. So Big Daddy P, I know we got a large list of things here. I know Aaron Wallace wanted to add a request about talking about his grandmother passing away in 2017 and kind of being reflective on that as well. A lot of things here to talk about. So what we're going to do here, we got a lot of things. I'm just going to turn things over to you, sir, to put out the snippets of truth and to kind of put it all out there today here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. So Big Daddy P, the floor is yours.
Well, first of all, the floor that I stand on doesn't belong to me, nor is it held up by my strength. It's only held up by his. So I just want to encourage you today that no matter what you're going through, financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it might be, from all the Wrestle Talk boys and everything that, one of the coolest things about God is how real he is. And you don't have to talk fancy. Sometimes you don't even have to talk at all. Sometimes it's just a thought process like, Lord, help us through this. He wrote the words, come to me who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. I didn't write those words. But what I can encourage you, and what we're going to do is we're going to pray, because prayer is very powerful. And there are those who've been waiting maybe all week for this segment. Has nothing to do with me. I'm just a vessel of grace. That's it. But remember, if Jesus took naps, so can we. So during times of distress, we have to rest, trust him, and let him be God. And our only responsibility is to trust him. That's it. Father God, we thank you so much for this time. We dedicate this time to you and only you, because you are the great God. There is no other. From the rising to the setting of the sun, there is no Lord, just you. You create well-being. You create calamity. You do all these things. There is no one but you, and I thank you, and I lift all of these prayer requests up to you, Father. You know everything about every single one of these persons' lives, what they're feeling, what they're going through. And Father, now all we can do is submit to you, knowing that you have all the facts. And I, as just a vessel of grace, want to pass through all these prayer requests to you, even the ones that are not being spoken of right now, Father, who are just can't talk about it or who are too emotional about it. Father, I know that you're listening. I just ask that they would trust you right now. I thank you so much that you don't give us a voicemail. You don't give us a busy signal. And while there might be 4,200 religions out there, you are the only Lord, and there is none like you. And I'm thankful that you died, that you rose again, that you're alive, sitting at the right hand of God, that you, as God, as a deity, have the ability to make more things happen in 1 second than we can do in a lifetime. So all this work that we do to try and gain our way to where you are can't be done by work, but by faith alone, because it is you who said, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, and you will be saved. It is written that those who believe that you are the Christ, the Savior, that by believing they would have eternal life. And Father, you know their situation. You know who's calling out to you now. You know who's right now saying, I want nothing to do with you. What good are you, God? Because I was one of them. I remember the name of that sermon that I heard. Why is God good? And I laughed. I said, yeah, he took my mother. He took my father away. How good could he be? And boy, was I wrong. Not only I am who I am, Father, because of the way you made me, but now if someone comes up to me and they lost their mother or father, I can look in their eyes and they know that I know what it feels like because I've lost them. And it's that realness that we ask for. We thank you so much for this time. I thank you so much for Renee and for Joe that you continue to just guide them, increase their circle of love within those that they know, those that they're trying to reach. Father, watch over their health. Father, you heard all the requests regarding Haas, and it just, every single one of them, you know all of them. I just thank you for this time, and I love you. And I ask these things in the only name that exists in heaven that can give you eternal life, in the name of Jesus Christ, in whose name I pray. Amen.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy P giving us a snippet of truth here tonight. And Big Daddy, I mean, again, a lot of things are going on in the world, but like I said, every time you come on the program, you share just that little piece of knowledge, that little, as the name says, snippet of truth to kind of guide us on our way as we continue on our journeys throughout the world as we know it. And we want to say thank you for coming on the program. And like I said, we've got to get, and I was talking to Chris about it, sooner rather than later. I know I'm going to have a journey in the foreseeable future heading down to the greater Kentucky and Tennessee area. I may even well be driving through later on this spring. And I may have to make it a point to make a stop at the Hartman residence. And
I don't even need 24-hour notice. You just, because, man, I work from home. That's what I do. So you come anytime. I got a place for you. All is good. It's a privilege and an honor. And just remember, Jesus took a nap, and you too should rest during the storms. I love you guys. I'll see you next week.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Big Daddy P here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Justin, I know things have been wild and crazy. How are things out on the West Coast?
Just busy, man. I work a day job, but sometimes life doesn't go as planned, as we can all speak to the choir. And work kept me over a little bit. I do apologize, leave you hanging, my friend. I did not mean for that to happen. Hopefully that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen again going forward. It started off 38 degrees today, and right now it is 42 right now here in the great state of Washington, in the Marysville northern area. I'm about 40 minutes north of city of Seattle. This is where I work. I work northern Washington. So I'm not used to this type of weather yet for the month of the year. April. I'm used to, what is it, like 60 something degrees right now in Collinsville.
We're just gonna say it's nice and warm here in the
nice and
St. Louis
toasty.
area. Yeah, it's getting a lot better here in the St. Louis area. And you know something, Justin, it's going to get a lot better here in just a moment because I'm gonna level with people here. I'm gonna kind of I've been taking a trip into some reality here. Back a little more than I want to say about a year ago, a little less, a little more. I had an opportunity to meet a gentleman as a part of the PWE Izzy Blackwell Memorial Tribute Show. A gentleman who is in charge of a promotion called Journey Independent Championship Wrestling. They're based out of Indiana. And I had an opportunity to speak with him. Again, I think the man thought I was crazy for getting in the ring to introduce a matchup between Mephisto and Madman Pondo with barbed wire around the ring. But that's okay.
You are crazy.
I was, and he's like, Cordell pops back in at the right time. But we get an opportunity to talk, and they have an event coming up on Saturday, April 29th. And we had an opportunity to sit down, their promoter and I, and had an opportunity to bring an individual, as you see here, the poster for Journey Independent Championship Wrestling.
Let it rain.
On Saturday, April 29th in Martinsville, Indiana. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be a great ticket a great night of professional wrestling action. And one of the men, and Chris, if you could bring that poster back up for just a minute, one of the men you see there, one of the individuals carrying hardware is an individual who's going to be joining us here tonight. He is the JICW Intercontinental Champion. So at this time, members of the Wrestle Talk podcast family, it's our esteemed honor and privilege to bring in our featured guest here this evening on the Wrestle Talk podcast. So let's go ahead and hit for the one and only Jon Scrutch joining us here on the program this evening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jon, how are you doing this evening, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm just can't wait for this next show. I missed out the other one because of due to injury, but I'm ready. I'm 100%, and I can't wait to perform again in front of Martinsville fans.
Well, I got to tell you right now, Jon, having an opportunity to have you here on the program this evening, when I talked to your promoter, one of the first names that was brought forward was you. And as you saw here in the promotional graphic, you have a pretty extensive repertoire here, carrying that wonderful JICW Intercontinental Championship.
This one right here.
Beautiful belt.
It's a very beautiful belt, like I said. And again, I want to
original looking.
Here, and Justin, you're going to have to bear with me a moment. I know I'm going to take a trip down memory lane.
Take it.
You would understand this. Jon, for those that don't know a lot about you, we did a little bit of research.
Okay.
And we happen to know that you were born and I believe raised in the beautiful south side of Chicago.
Yes, I was. Definitely was.
Can you tell us a little bit about your early days of Jon Scrutch living in Chicago? Because you're talking to a man who's a huge Chicago Cubs fan, and my co-host here, wouldn't say so much about being a Cubs fan. Hence, you notice the Yankees hat. But when it comes down to, can you tell us a little bit about growing up in the South Side of Chicago?
Well, I don't know where to start, but growing up in the South Side is like a life lesson, believe it or not, because you see a lot of things that happen in the neighborhoods, and believe it or not, I did a little bit of living on the north side of Chicago, so I got tied to the Cubs too. Ooh, like
That's
blocks.
okay.
It's a school on 2 blocks away from Wrigley Field that I used to go to. So, and in fact, I don't think y'all ever seen the Steve Harvey show when he had a little TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used that same school. That's the same school I went to.
Really?
Yes.
That is awesome. I used to watch the Steve Harvey show. He's a funny-ass man.
Mm-hmm.
So
when I remember when I first saw the show, I was like, oh, look, Dad's my school. Is my school. I was so deep. And then to this day, it's still there. And I usually just tell people, I take my friends, they're like, look, this is the Steve Harvey Show school. This is actually a grammar school or elementary school. But I did a little bit of living in the north side, but south side, I mostly grew up there. It was rough, very rough. We had a lot of gangs and like a lot of friends of mine was going down the wrong path. And I was almost going down that wrong path until the older gangbangers, like, you know what? This is not for you. You do not want this lifestyle. Stick what you good. Stick what you know best, and just stay away from it. And that's what happened. I decided to, focus on basketball at the time, and basketball was always my thing. And I was always going to be number one love.
Well, Jon, I gotta share a story, and this is one of those I don't think I've ever shared with Justin. I've been a Cubs fan since I was a little kid. I mean, having opportunity days of like Andre Dawson and Ryan Sandberg, among others, and had an opportunity when I was in college. I had a friend of mine that went to DePaul. Justin, you'd know him, gentleman by the name of Scott Murphy, wrestled out in Ohio, longtime friend for both of us. Also going to give a shout out to Twin Sanity Twitch channel, Twin Sanity Dad, making a point to check him out. A lot of great video game playthroughs. Give you an idea though, I'm a huge Cubs. I was trying to find a Cubs necktie, getting ready to graduate college, trying to find it. Took me on the L, walked down the stairs, and I found my tie and all that stuff. It just happened just by chance. I found this little itty bitty mom and pop pizzeria. I mean, literally, it's like right under the L. You turn around, you're back out the door. That's how a lot of those businesses are when you're down there in Wrigleyville. And I had to have found, I mean, again, I've been to Giordano's, I've been to places all up and down the East Coast. I've had pizza all over the place. And I'm going to tell you right now, the best pizza I've ever had was in Wrigleyville. Also had a lot of good times, too. I had an opportunity. I've been to the Cubby Bear a time or two. Been to a lot of different places there in the greater Wrigleyville area.
I mean, there's none but bars there. There's none but bars. Like, you get bored of one, you can go to the next one, like right next door or right across the street. And that neighborhood is a great neighborhood.
Well, and like I said,
get to it is like, man.
And that's one of those that's on my bucket list of things to do. I've been trying to do them for the last several seasons, is get up there and see the Cubs play. Last time, I'm not going to fib, they were already down 10-1 at the bottom of the second inning, but that's okay. Everything happens for a reason, and the Cubs can have a bad day once in a while. So let's move on here. We talked about your time in Chicago, and I want to go ahead. You talk about your foundations in basketball. My question is how do you make that transition from basketball to pro wrestling? It's kind of like two completely different avenues. How did you decide that pro wrestling was going to be the sport for you?
Well, it started by me getting older. I've been trying to get to the NBA or some type of professional league since I was a kid, and it's always been the number one dream. But wrestling was a close second. So me transitioning to pro wrestling was more like, okay, I'm getting a little older. I was 29 when I first started training wrestling. Really? Let me just go ahead and try this. I mean, look at DDP and every other wrestler that started late. I'm like, okay, I'm still technically in my 20s. I'll be 30 next year. Let me just give it a try. And 6 years later, here I am. I consider myself one of the best in the Midwest, but it's only because I got the confidence. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering. I just feel like good in my abilities. And then when I started, I knew most of it because I knew most of the basics because I watched wrestling. That was all because I watch NBA. I didn't watch WWE all the time. I watched that every chance I get. So I knew some of the moves. But as far as like once you get the basic down, like the bumping and all that, the transition was easier for me.
Well, John, I mean, again, it's one of those where you're talking to two individuals. Myself, I mean, again, I remember many, many years ago first learning how to take falls in the professional wrestling ring. I remember putting this guy right up here on the other part of the screen through his paces back early on in his career. And I'm going to tell you right now, learning professional wrestling, when you watch it on TV, it's a lot different than when you actually get in the ring and you got to learn how to control yourself inside the squared circle. It's a completely different ball of wax, that's for sure. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to my broadcast colleague because I'm going to be honest with you, John. I think you and Justin are very similar molds. I mean, again, you're both late 20s, early 30s. You both grew up in the world of pro wrestling. You both have kind of seen kind of the same general genres of things. So, Justin, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to you.
All right. Hey, thanks for joining us on the show tonight, man. Hey, so in terms of your style, when you get in the ring, who do you model yourself after when you get in the ring?
Man, I got a mix.
Yeah.
I got a mix of people because it's like it's hard to copy people because then it's like, oh, you're copying it from this person, that person. So I try to mix up a lot of stuff. So I mix Undertaker. That's one of my favorite wrestlers. A low-key favorite wrestler of mine is D'Lo Brown. I enjoy his work and everything. And then a little bit of CM Punk here and there, So I just try to incorporate all that into my own. So it's difficult, but at the same time, it's like, if you can put it as your own and make it like your own, then they ain't going to tell it's you copying it from people.
And, in terms of you training in basketball, how was it? Is there any similarities that you can tell in the training of basketball and the training of wrestling, or do you think it's two completely different beasts?
It's both same and different. Like the same because you still got to work out. You still got to do your push-ups. You got to do your sit-ups. We all do that. Squats, all that. But it's different because now you in a circle. You in a square circle. You got to run the ropes. And it's like you can't slow down where the court
get that pace down.
the court is a little bit further out, and that's why it's a little more different. Like I cannot stand suicides, but then when we run the ropes, it's just like suicide, just in a different way.
And did you now? What brought you to Indiana? Now was that as you were a kid you moved to Indiana, or was that as you
Oh no,
were an adult?
I'm actually still in Chicago. I just traveled to Indiana.
Nice. So you train in Chicago? Did you do your training in Chicago?
Yes, well, actually in Hammond, Indiana, it's like 15, 20 minutes away from where I'm at. So that's
Okay.
right there with Project Revolution Wrestling. That's my home fed. I've been there for almost 6 years now, and I've learned from the best. Like I had my trainers is Ivan Tooks. He known as Chi-Town T. He been in the business for like 30 years, and it's like for him getting the knowledge from him, it's like, man, he telling you what he been through, what he had. My other trainer, a big shout out to him, is Willie the Bomb Richardson. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he's also one of my baggy trainers, and he been in the business for so long. He been in the TNA and other places and wrestled the Young Bucks, and it's like I didn't even know that until I saw footage. Like, dang, you wrestled the Young Bucks? Oh yeah, I did it all. I faced with them little Bucks and all that. So
I believe you, John. I believe he was a member. I believe it was the Soul Touches tag team. I'm not mistaken, years and years ago. Had an opportunity to see Willie compete back in the day. Actually, several of my good friends have wrestled in the greater Chicagoland area. Guys like Shane Foster, Marcella Spade, Shogun Chris Logan, Beast.
Yeah.
Shout out to all those guys up there in the greater Chicagoland area. Had a lot of great times up there in the Chicago area. Now, my question to you is this, and I'm just going to throw this at you here. And Chris, if you be so kind here to throw that graphic back up here, I got to ask you, and we're going to throw this graphic back up here. You see right back here in on the screen that you are right there holding the JICW Intercontinental Championship.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you is this. With you having the amount of experience you have, what does it mean to you when a company can put your face on a poster like this and you have that championship belt over your shoulder? What does that make you feel? How do you feel being the JICW Intercontinental Champion?
I mean, it felt great. It just showed that not only just my hard work is paying off, it's also showing that the company trusted me to lead to the next level. And that's all I'll be asking for is to, give me an opportunity to lead. If it didn't work, hey, at least we tried. But for them to put the title on me, it just shows like, man, I'm blessed, I'm humble, but work is not done. I want more. I already said it. I want the open weight title, the one that's in the middle. I want that title because that's technically the world title. But I'm going to enjoy this ride and any challenges that, in fact, the guy I'm facing on the 29th, he's been wanting a piece of me for a while. So I'm like, we're going to see how it is. And then, like I said, this title right here that I got right here, it's a workhorse. And I'm blessed to have this. In fact, I'm a 2-time champion. So I lost for words. But in all be all, I'm just blessed. That's all.
Well, John, I mean, again, having an opportunity to be a champion is indeed an honor. It's a prestige. It gets you the high-profile matchups. Now, I want to ask you a question here, and Justin and I have had this conversation plenty of times before. A lot of people have a goal of reaching a particular promotion. I mean, right now, you're kind of at the top of the list in JICW. But my question to you is this. Down the road, if you were given an opportunity to showcase your style, your in-ring ability with any promotion on the planet, who would you showcase your ability with and why?
I mean, everybody's going to pick WWE or AEW, but my number one pick, believe it or not, is MLW. I think Major League Wrestling is like an undercover, up-and-coming promotion, and people like they so under the radar, like they don't know who they are, but they'll tune in as soon as they see somebody they recognize, like Alice Kane. He's a very good talent, And then it's like that's what tuned them in. So I've been watching them for a while, besides WWE and back in the day WCW, ECW, showing my age actually. So it's just like seeing them promotions, like that's why I want to showcase my talents. But then it can open up other doors for the WWE and AEW stuff like that. Like, okay, we've been paying attention to you on this platform. Let's check you. Let's check you out there.
And one thing too, as you talk about there, you talk about Alex Kane, another guest of the Wrestle Talk podcast in days gone by, the Bomaye Fight Club as well. I've got to ask you right now. We're going to talk about your matchup here on April 29th in Martinsville. What can you tell us about your opponent? And without going into too much detail, I mean, again, Justin and I both know, being former wrestlers, you don't want to give too much information out being the Intercontinental Champion. But can you give us a little bit of insight as to how you prepare for a matchup like you would have on Saturday, April 29th?
Just like how I approach with basketball, I just get in my little corner, get focused, trying to envision what kind of moves I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do, trying to speak the story. So I just be prepared for all that. I either have my music or I just be silent in the corner. And some people be like, why John in the corner looking weird? My best friend, DJ The Disaster, she would tell him, he just getting focused. Before you know, after the match, he would be back to his goofy self and be laughing and joking around. But when it comes down to showtime, I'll be focused, like tunnel vision.
Oh, very, very much so. I mean, again, that's one thing a lot of people don't understand is a lot of times when wrestlers have to get in that zone, I mean, again, they say, oh, well, pro wrestling, it's like falling on a trampoline or it's falling on a mattress. No, it's not. You got to get yourself in that mindset to go out there and be able to compete and put it on the line sometimes for 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time. And it's not easy. I mean, again, to quote Tully Blanchard when he went to the Hall of Fame in the WWE, wake up with a little bit of a kink in my neck, a little bit of kink in my back, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, because that's when you're, again, and Justin, I think you know where I'm going to go with this next quote. There's not much of a better feeling in the world than being under those bright lights.
Yes, under the bright lights, not on your back facing the bright lights. But no, those bright lights, John, I lived in Chicago for a year in 2010, 2011, and I got to wrestle in the Congress Theater in front of 3,000 fans. And it's being alive in front of people like that. It's an adrenaline rush that gets you through these matches. I'm sure Luke and John, you guys can attest. When you get that adrenaline rush from the fans, it's like a feeling like no other.
Oh yeah, definitely. I they talk their energy. It makes me more like pump and all that. Like especially like the one time I debuted at Evision and this is Indiana. My first match against Derek Fullerton and Apology CMC, I think that's his name. Mm-hmm. And next thing you know, like soon my theme song hit and I came out and said, let's go. I got an instant pop. And I was like, wow. You could see it in my face. Like, I was like, this is amazing. And this is my debut. But again, I'm kind of known in the Midwest. I'm kind of known down there in the Southern Indiana. So it's like, it's a mix of fans that see me. But still, like, the fact that I got that big pop, that's just like, wow. And like, how can I top that?
Well, I got to throw one out here too. And I mean, again, you're talking about looking at different promotions and things like that. And just to let you know, we are being joined by the one, the only, the Alpha, he's always in a different place. That's about the best way to put it. 1 week.
It looks like he's announcing from reporting outside the window of someone he's stalking. So
they don't know I'm here yet.
Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to throw it to the Alpha here in just a minute. But I do want to ask him, and again, I've had the opportunity to see you in the ring. I don't know how familiar you are with the St. Louis wrestling scene. But a lot of wrestlers I've seen, wrestlers like, I would love to see the opportunity to have you wrestle against some people like Raheem De La Suede, have the opportunity to wrestle someone like Mike Outlaw, have somebody wrestle like Adrian Surge or Ricky Cruz or Cayman. There's a lot of great wrestlers here in the St. Louis area that would you get an opportunity, go on YouTube and catch some of this man's matches, because some of the matches that he's had have been nothing short of outstanding. Now, I do want to go ahead here. I was doing my research, and as I look back here, it was mentioned that you were the first, and again, with only having a handful of years in wrestling, you were the first inductee of the EPW Hall of Fame. Now, I got to ask you, how does someone with your, and again, you're not inexperienced, you spent a good amount of time in the ring, how do you get the message? How do you get the information that you're going to be the first inductee to the EPW Hall of Fame?
This is the funny part. We they said a meeting and said, "Hey, we're doing the EPW Hall of Fame. So if you hear your music, congratulations." I was like, "Okay, I'm not going to be in it because you got the likes of Sam Knight. They got some other like referee Terry Harper. He's been in the game and business for a very long time. So I'm thinking it's going to be them. So I'm like, okay, I'm still active and all that. Next thing you know, I heard my theme song. I was like, are you serious? And I was the first one, and I was like, I was in tears, but I was like, it wasn't coming out because I was just so excited because I put in the work like I always do, and I've been in EPW since. Well, they said since day 2, but since they started, I've been there ever since, and I'm just honored to be part of the Hall of Fame, the first class of Hall of Fame, that is.
Well, like I said, I would have been remiss if I hadn't thrown it out there. But, you know, I'm going to level with you. Even though Justin's made some pretty observant commentary about Alpha here, he always seems to come in with that, literally pop in with that $1 million question. He has become kind of the, I guess he is the resident expert when it comes to the world of independent professional wrestling. So I'm going to go ahead. Alpha, you've got your microphone. You've got your light on. So let's go ahead and throw it to you for your question with Jon Scrutch, the JICW Intercontinental Champion.
Well, I want to start by saying it's a pleasure to have you on the show, John. I'm very happy that it's your second reign as champion, I was hearing, and
Yes.
I hope it's a lengthy one. And as champion, and after mentioning MLW, I have to ask, you keep an eye on places that you want to try and go to. Is there anybody you'd like to defend the championship against? Any potentials? I mean, we heard of Snitch was the MLW champion for a little bit, correct? Am I right, Luke? I can't remember.
I was trying to think
wrong?
here. I know that right now, I believe the current champion in, like I say, in Dynamo Pro is the Snitch.
Oh, Dynapro. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, MLW would be wrestlers like Alex Hammerstone and others. John, I'm going to agree with him. Is there anybody you would like to defend your championship against?
Well, I'll defend against anybody. I'm always ready for anyone, any challenges, anything. But if you want to be the say to pick somebody from MLW, it's just the name I just said, Alex Kane. Something about him is just like, I want to share the ring with him regardless. And it's just like go toe to toe. And I'm actually friends with him on Facebook. I chat with him every now and then and get some advice. But that's the one guy I really want to like either defend the Intercontinental title or just have a match anyway. That's one of my like top.
So then I guess the follow-up is, when can we look forward to it?
Whenever he get free and they got the JRCW want to bring him in, I'm all for it. I'm ready. I'm always gonna be ready.
Well, you know something, John, we're having it here. We're making a point for our great viewers to have comments as we go along here. And I want to bring up this one here from Aaron Wallace. And if our production team could throw this one up here, throwing up the idea of another local promotion here in the greater St. Louis area. Chris, you can go ahead and throw that up here. Have you heard of, and would you ever give consideration to coming to the St. Louis area to wrestle for SICW?
Oh, sure. I mean, only been in St. Louis a couple of times. back to my basketball days when I was playing AAU ball and everything. But I would love to come to St. Louis. St. Louis is a good wrestling town to me. And definitely, I mean, all they got to do is just look at my resume, look at my matches on YouTube. And if they like what they see, all they got to do is hit me up. And then we can arrange travels and all that. Go from there.
Well, like I said, I mean, again, that's one of those, again, if you are a promoter, not just in the St. Louis area, but if you're Kansas City, Chicago, Memphis areas, make it a point. Places that are close by, I know there's a lot of promoters who check in with the program on a regular basis. I know Herb Simmons, promoter of SICW, checks in. Our good friend Jeff Manning of the Don't Try This organization out of Vegas. You've got promoters like DCW's Matt Robles. You've got Greg DeMarco of, I believe, it's IPW out in Arizona. Our good friend G.A. Waugh at FML up in Ontario and Quebec. As always, we have a lot of promoters always looking to see the newest in up-and-coming talent here in professional wrestling. And again, we have the two-time JICW Intercontinental Champion, Jon Scrutch, with us. Now, John, I'm going to level with you here. One of the things you probably heard from the promoter is we like to kind of break down the walls a little bit, kind of let our viewers know a little more about you. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to have a segment, a brand new segment, so to speak, here. And that's going to be 5 questions with the champ. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with me, and we're going to kind of go it around to myself, Alpha, and then Jay Wade, and then we'll come back around. So that should be 6 questions with the champ. And we're just going to throw a handful of questions out here, may or may not be wrestling related, but we're just going to throw it out there and see, let the viewers know a little more about you. Question number 1. Favorite sports team?
Chicago Bulls. I've always been a Bulls fan since day one, since I was a kid. So I grew up watching Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. And then, little secret, Derrick Rose, I used to play against in high school. I didn't like him then. But when we beat the Bulls, I love him then.
All right, Alpha?
Question number 2. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, man. I got a lot, but I ain't going to lie. Friday's always going to be my favorite. I will never get tired of that. All the Friday series. I mean, in fact, my girlfriend watched Next Friday all the time. Like she don't even watch Friday or Friday after next. She just watch Next Friday. But Friday series is my favorite.
All right, I'm going to bring it back to the professionalism of this radio show and bring it back to wrestling, unlike the first two. John, what's your first memory of wrestling? What's your first memory of pro wrestling?
My very first memory is that I think this is pre Attitude Era. This is when I first started watching like real heavy. Cause I already had the games and stuff, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I just knew who Hulk Hogan was. He was just a big old muscular guy. But my very first memory was '97 SummerSlam. Shawn, The Undertaker, Bret Hart. That's where I really tuned in. Like, why did Shawn do that to Undertaker? Why he didn't like Bret? We don't want Bret to be here. So that was my very first memory.
That's a perfect one, because you got, the main focus was Hart and Undertaker, but they made up another feud with Taker and Michaels, So we got to see the first Hell in a Cell match because of that. Yeah. And our good, my former hometown of St. Louis, Missouri. Mm-hmm. So, that's a good memory.
Okay, it's back to me. Justin's being wrestling centric. I'm not. You talked about it. Yeah, you talked about it earlier about with movies and whatnot. If we were going to write the biopic of Jon Scrutch, who would play you in the movie and why?
I couldn't think of his name. What was his name? He got the hazel brown eyes. He played in a lot of movies. He played in the Steve Harvey story, Think Like a Man. I can't think of his life. Oh my God, I can't think of his name. I want to go find my phone, but I can't find it. But he'll a good fit. I think he'll fit perfectly. Just he got to change the hair and the eye color. But if I had to choose at 9, it got to be one of my kids, especially my youngest son. He looks just like me, so he'll play real good as a younger me.
All righty, Alpha, back to you.
All right. Since I have to be the odd one out here in the Wrestle Talk podcast, I'll throw this a little weird. Not too weird. But if you had to be stranded on an island with somebody, who would it be and why?
Rihanna, because she's big. I love Rihanna. That's like one of my. Well, I ain't gonna say one. She like the celebrity crush for me. I like love everything about her. So,
Well, that'd be good entertainment too. You could just listen to her sing while you hang out.
That's a good answer. Kind of caught me off guard with that one.
It's called taste.
I know, very good taste. I hope my wife's not listening. If she's not, I'll say some more things, but I have a feeling she might be. She likes to sneak up on me and be like, "You pig." Anyways, John, it's been great having you on the show. With the show coming up, when you're defending the belt, can you give, what type of guy you going up against? Is he someone you've faced before? Is this a rival? What's going on with the guy you're defending the belt against?
Well, Jergolo, that's what's his name, though. The big name is Jergolo. I never faced him before, but like I said, y'all heard he wanted to face me in the ring, and the promoter said we're gonna give him a shot and see how he is, and you can tell me how he is, because I'm like somewhat the go-to guy to let him know, like, okay, he's good, he got potential, or he need work and everything. I always critique while I'm in the ring, but I never faced him, but I'm looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
And again, like I said, a lot of great questions here with JICW Intercontinental Champion Jon Scrutch. Now, John, we got one more thing here that we do each and every week. It's called the Wrestle Talk Podcast, the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge, where we have an opportunity to test your professional wrestling trivia knowledge.
Oh, yeah, I like this.
Against the host of the show. Now, Justin?
Yes.
We're going to go ahead, since he likes to make a fashionable entrance, and he's now made a new nickname for himself since he was the most valuable. We call him the most valuable alpha because he wound up bringing home the WrestleMania Trivia Challenge trophy when we competed against another program a couple weeks ago over at the Falls Count Everywhere podcast.
Okay.
What we're going to do is we're going to pick a topic based on a particular subject that both of you will find out momentarily. John, it sounds like you're more than willing to participate.
Yeah, I love wrestling trivia. I actually be giving out trivia to people that check their knowledge or make them think.
That's cool. That's cool. Alpha, do you think you're ready for this?
I'm more than ready for this. I'm excited.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and hit the intro music for tonight's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
We have fun here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast.
That is true. We always try to keep it lively here on the Wrestle Talk Podcast. Now, bear with me. I've got to get back into that announcer broad. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's installment of the world famous Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Tonight's contest is scheduled for the best 2 out of 3 falls, and our contestants are the 2-time JICW Intercontinental Champion Jon Scrutch and the Wrestle Talk Podcast own the Alpha. Now, in a few minutes, gentlemen, I will give you information about 3 famous professional wrestlers. When you think you know the answer to the question, shout out your answer. The one to get the first 2 out of 3 falls will win tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge. Now, gentlemen, this is a category that I know firsthand Jon Scrutch would never fit in. Tonight's podcast category is wrestlers who surrendered the Intercontinental Championship.
Oh.
All 3 of these wrestlers, for some reason or another, had to surrender the Intercontinental Championship. John, are you ready?
Yes.
Alpha, are you ready?
Yes.
Question.
Real quick.
Yes.
This does not involve those that have gotten in trouble and had to drop the belt.
That is correct. These are wrestlers that have had legitimately to surrender the championship
belt.
for some reason. Okay, gentlemen, here we go. Remember, if you know the answer, go ahead and shout it out. Question number 1. This individual had to surrender the Intercontinental Championship after being attacked outside
Shawn
of the
Michaels.
club. That is correct. Jon Scrutch with the first point. First fall. Shawn Michaels.
Whoa!
Question number 2. This individual had to surrender the WWF Intercontinental Championship because he was the first individual to hold both major WWF championships.
Ultimate Warrior.
That is correct. Alpha, you're down 2-0. John's won tonight, but Alpha, I'm going to tell you right now, I am confident that Mr. Scrutch is going to sweep you here tonight. What do you think, Wade? You think he's going to sweep him?
I kind of want to. I want to see a sweep. Other people like seeing when I get swept, so I got to give it back.
All right. Well, gentlemen, here we go with our final question of tonight's Wrestle Talk Podcast Game Show Challenge.
This is fun.
This individual had to surrender the Intercontinental title under the most unique of circumstances. He had to surrender the championship because he suffered a kidney injury at the hands of... That is correct. Alpha getting swept.
Wait, who was it?
Ahmed
Johnson getting kicked in the kidney by Farouk, leading to
yeah.
emergency surgery.
I love Ahmed Johnson. Oh,
John, if I'm ever going to get swept by somebody, it takes an Intercontinental Champion to know Intercontinental Champion. So it's an honor, sir. It's an honor.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just to make sure things are right here, Chris, if you be so kind, we do have some victory music for the Intercontinental Champion. So if you go ahead and hit that, Chris. Alpha's dancing even though he lost.
It's a noble victory.
It's a noble victory. All right. Well, before we let you go, John, a couple things here. First thing I want to go here. First of all, I want to say thank you for joining us here on the program tonight. But I want to ask one final question before we talk about the show on April 29th and kind of review what's going on. For those that have seen you compete in the ring, what would you want your fans or wrestling fans in general to take away from the JICW Intercontinental Champion Jon Scrutch inside the squared circle?
Whatever I do what I say on my shirt or on the motto: go hard or go home. It's not just in wrestling; it's just in life. Period. Go as hard as you can with your dream. Go for it, and they won't come. They're gonna come true. Just keep going hard. Don't go home, but that's the motto. Go hard or go home.
And like I said, we're going to go ahead. If we can bring up that graphic one more time. John, if you would like to share just a little bit here to encourage people to come out and see JICW, Let It Rain, Saturday, April 29th, at the Morgan County Fairgrounds in Martinsville, Indiana. If you want to go ahead and take just a few seconds and let people know why they should attend Let It Rain on Saturday, April 29th.
You're going to see one of the best rosters in the Indiana scene right now. You're going to see me. You're going to see DJ the Disaster. You're going to see Aaron Alex. You're going to see Excalibur. You're going to see a lot of people. Just come out, have a good time. You're going to enjoy yourself, and come support JICW.
Well, you know something, John? I'm going to look right here as we got this poster still up. And Chris, I got to leave it here. I got to talk about the gentleman right there, almost across from you. A man you may be familiar with, the one, the only Ace Roberts. Have you had any run-ins with Mr. Roberts in your time in JICW?
No, not yet, but it's bound to happen. It's definitely bound to happen and everything. So,
well, I got to ask. I mean, I know you may not have had any run-ins, but being as closely related to Mr. Ace Roberts as I am, does he rub people the wrong way in JICW like he rubs everybody the wrong way?
No, I never got that vibe. It might be for someone else, but I don't get that vibe. So
Okay, I'm just going to leave that one there because I think it's the first time I've ever heard somebody say that Ace Roberts has not rubbed them the wrong way. But that's okay. I mean, again, it's one of those where maybe he's turned over a new leaf in JICW. I don't know. But that's okay. So before we go, if anybody would like to follow you on social media or catch you at any upcoming events, John, how can they follow you on social media? And if you could, in addition to your JICW appearance, are there going to be any other places in the immediate future they can catch Jon Scrutch in action?
yes, first of all, social media is Jon Scrutch everywhere else: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Go ahead, follow me. Of course, I got a YouTube channel. Go subscribe. All my matches will be on there to check it out. Besides April 29th, which I need everybody to be there in Martinsville, I have a Midwest Collection show with EPW, Hybrid, and Evision will match all in once. And you're going to see all the talented people that you might even see in OVW, AEW, or just locally, period. May 27th in Terre Haute, Indiana.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you see right here, Jon Scrutch. First of all, I have to say, John, you are officially a part of the Wrestle Talk podcast family now. I want to say thank you for coming on the program tonight. We look forward to hearing more about your in-ring competition. And again, as Alpha said earlier on, hopefully a very long reign as the JICW Intercontinental Championship. And again, on behalf of the Wrestle Talk podcast, we want to thank you for coming on the program tonight. And we look forward to, I'm going to tell you right now, we need to have you back on the program soon because number one is the idea we could talk more about pro sports. We could talk about things going on in the world. Maybe Alpha can get here on time. And like so once again, John, on behalf of our Wrestle Talk podcast family and all the viewers that are on the program tonight, we want to thank you for coming on the program, and we look forward to seeing you back here real soon.
Definitely. I can't wait to be back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the JICW Intercontinental Champion Jon Scrutch here on the program. And Chris, if you'd be so kind here real quick, I also want to throw up here, we actually have another graphic here too in relationship to that JICW event. Sent it to you right before we went on the air tonight. If you have an opportunity, if you're a professional wrestler and you want to develop your skills, JICW is going to be presenting a professional wrestling seminar with Jebediah Blackhawk. This is a man who is going to be on the, we've been talking, he will be on the Wrestle Talk podcast coming up here in the next few weeks. He's had an opportunity to, as the title says, learn from my mistakes, have an opportunity to come in, pick his brain. He's been all around the world when it comes to professional wrestling, and it's a low price of $10 to come in and get an opportunity to pick a very well-seasoned veteran's brain about the world of professional wrestling. You can make it a point, pay on Cash App, pay on PayPal, or you can walk up day of the event and pay for it. Again, registration's at 2:30. The seminar's from 3 to 4. It's going to be at the venue. Jebediah Blackhawk presenting a seminar at JICW. Also, thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Also, as a reminder, we were talking earlier this evening. Again, we want to extend our best get well wishes to the Allen family. And Chris, were you able to get that link to the GoFundMe up here? We do want to share with you. I know a lot of wrestlers here in the greater St. Louis area have shared this GoFundMe to help support the family. I don't know. I'm hoping that Chris will be able to get it up here on the screen shortly.
Let me really give me 1 second.
Okay, Chris is going to go ahead and take care of it. You know, he pops in just like Alpha does. He pops in for a minute, then he's gone again. Gentlemen, again, from top to bottom, a great show. Alpha, I'm going to go ahead, even though you've only been here for a few minutes, and you got swept. Justin, Alpha got swept.
Yeah.
I'm never going to hear the end of this.
That is true. But like I said, if you look right here, we've got it here on the screen. If you make it a point to go to GoFundMe, the opportunity, Allison's fight, make it a point to join in helping out here. Again, young lady, 5 years old, suffering severe second and third degree burns over most of the upper half of her body. She's going to have a long road ahead of her. If you can help out with any kind of a donation, it would be greatly appreciated. Again, if you can help donate.
I'll put it into the Wrestle Talk podcast page so everyone can share it on out.
Right, and I'll tell you right now, Alpha, I know you haven't had the opportunity to meet Eric Allen. He was a former guest on the program. Justin, you've had an opportunity. Are there any thoughts you'd like to share about Eric Allen?
He's a good man. I worked with him in Pro Wrestling Epic a little bit. The man knows his business inside the ring and outside the ring. The man is a magnificent artist. Luke, I'm kind of at a loss for words on. Does he have a link for his art or a name for his art?
I believe it's if you look up under Darts Art.
Darts Art, yeah. Everybody that's listening, you need to check him out. He has phenomenal artwork, and I think some of his artwork was used. I don't know if he.
Tell you what, Justin. Hold that thought here. I know you're going to probably share an Eric Allen story here. Chris, tell you what. Give me just a second here. I'm going to go ahead. I got something to share. You brought it up.
Okay, Alpha.
All right.
Luke has never sounded better.
A month ago, we didn't even own them.
What's going on? Is someone talking in the background?
It's me.
Oh
no!
I hear.
We think we can hear something on your from your computer.
Television.
Oh yeah, I'm listening to some. I'm sorry, I'm listening to something too at the same time.
What are you watching? What are you watching?
Oh, I'm watching a Facebook or a TikTok live.
Okay. I thought it was like a show or something.
No.
Right, yeah.
It looks like Carmelo Anthony and Grayson Waller are gonna have a fight here. I don't know.
I've missed so much NXT. All I know is that Braun Breaker's a heel, and he's starting to act like his uncle. Yeah, it's Scott Steiner 2.0.
That's the most reasonable though, and then that helps because Scott can give him pointers on what to look out for. Because let's be honest, Scott was a good heel.
He's a great heel, and the only reason why he was ever a face is because he was part of the tag team, and they had that whole collegiate shtick going on. Right. Otherwise, Scotty was probably acting himself on screen. So he's probably, if I ever meet him and he hears this, he'll probably
he's gonna hurt you. Okay, Luke's back. I'm going away.
He's gonna hurt you even if he likes you. That's just who Scott Steiner is.
You brought up too.
Just don't have him do math.
That is true. Like I said, to give
his
you
math is
here,
amazing.
This is actually a shirt when they had Pro Wrestling Night at the ballpark, and they were giving these out. I think it was to the first 15,000 fans at the event. Had an opportunity to get one of these. This artwork was done by Eric Allen, and actually here in my office, and I know Justin's had the opportunity to see it. They were, I believe it was Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bob Orton, and I believe it was Road Warrior Animal were here in town as a part of that Pro Wrestling Night. And I gotta say, one of my greatest memories in pro wrestling, I was in the one of the private boxes with Mr. Allen and a few others as a guest of the St. Louis Cardinals. And it was strange in the idea of where I got to spend about 15, 20 minutes with the Laurinaitis family, and really a great group of people to be with. Joe was there. The only one who wasn't there was Johnny Ace, and we all know that Johnny Ace wouldn't have been at the St. Louis Cardinals game, but I had an opportunity to sit down and have a nice conversation with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and really just a nice, good, quiet guy. Had a great time with him. And again, if you have an opportunity here, and Chris, if you could throw that up one more time, please, I'd very much appreciate it. If you have an opportunity to go to GoFundMe and pull that up, well, hold on, we might get that back up here. I'm hoping that Chris will get it back here. Again, make it a point to go to GoFundMe. It's Allison's Fight. Make it a point to, if you can, donate. Every little bit helps. Again, as Chris is bringing it up here on the screen, make it a point to donate if you can. I mean, again, right now, if this number's correct, $11,000 already been donated in 3 days. This young lady's going to have a very uphill battle to go. But again, if you can help out the Allen family, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Chris, for bringing that up. Alpha, as we said, any final thoughts here tonight?
if I can mute my microphone in time. Any final thoughts? I'm just gonna try to make it sooner next time. I promise.
Well, like I said, any thoughts on the interview with Jon Scrutch tonight?
I definitely want him to come back on the show, even if it means getting sweeped again. I'll take it because he seems like a really cool guy. Workhorse title seems to fit. He seems very down to earth and very workhorse-esque, and that's something to admire, And I'd love to really book it back and make some questions to really get to know his side on wrestling because he's somebody I want to keep up with going forward.
All right, Justin, your thoughts on tonight's program?
Well, I didn't get to rant because I love how you gave shit to Alpha, even though I showed up like an hour late because of work.
Well, I already passed off to Justin.
Not really. I kind of got off scot clean.
You missed it. I passed off the Justin Wade rant to Chris Rodell earlier today.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I passed it off to him because you weren't here on time.
There's no time limit on this motherfucking show. I want to know what this
remembering
was about.
Stormy Daniels in that wonderful evening.
Like I said, I mean, again, any final thoughts tonight, Justin?
Well, I just I hate being an adult because
Same.
Yeah, it just I couldn't get here in time, and it really sucks because I really wanted to talk about the high spots and stuff. I had my thoughts. I'm really excited about the Bloodline and the Judgment Day potentially having a big feud. There is a lot of intersecting feuds right now with the LWO. With Riddle and Zayn and Owens in the Bloodline and the Judgment Day, there's going to be just a big schmoz like sooner or later where it's going to be like a big elimination tag of some sort. That's right. Adulting should be optional. Now, if that said adultery, that'd be another story.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to work on next week, and it's also hard too. Like when I do the show from my office, and there was lawyers here past the start time of the show, and it's kind of hard to do a podcast while they're all talking in the background while I'm, So otherwise, I could do it from my car, and I wouldn't have a problem doing that because I have a mount now in my car to where I could post my phone and smoke on a stogie like I like. But that's my long-winded thoughts of tonight's show.
And that's the shortest Justin Raid rant I
Go to hell, you. Let me. You know what? Here's another rant, all right? Because let me tell you something. Alpha. Every time I love talk. Rob's my best friend. Let me tell you something. Every time he calls me, we'll be on the phone about 25, 30 minutes. I may have said one word to his 29 minutes and 30 seconds worth of call. The man can talk.
You get one word?
If I'm lucky.
I do remember that month.
Sometimes here's what I do, Alpha. Here's what I do, Alpha. Because I barely get any words in, I already have pre-recorded words to play when he's talking.
Yeah,
so
much.
I go,
Except for
I understand,
one that was
brother.
him grilling,
It's gonna be okay.
a lot slimmer than he actually
shit
is.
like that.
And none of them seem to hear his
Luke can fill time like nobody I've ever heard before.
That's why
Right.
I don't know. I love it when we have guests, but if we don't, we wouldn't have a problem. Rob could do the motherfucking show by himself.
Well, guys, I'm gonna tell you
let me tell you something. If there was a screen just full of Robs on here, he might have a stroke because he wouldn't know what the fuck to do because it'd be too much.
Justin, you got to admit, you're just jealous of my Baby Yoda shirt.
That looks like you back in high school.
Oh,
okay. I'm leaving on that note.
Well, like I said,
All
guys,
right,
first of all, I want to say thank you for everybody who's tuned in this evening. Again, another great episode of the podcast here, available on all of our great social media platforms, WrestleTalkPodcast.com. Also, Alpha, since you're ready to go, you got your microphone on, you got it turned on. Let's go ahead. Besides thanking our great viewers, you could thank our great sponsors who help make this podcast go every week. Can we take care of that right now?
Lovely. Wrestle Talk Podcast would like to thank all of our great sponsors. Royal Mills Transportation, head by Dewan Mills, the CEO himself of the FWWC. Rathbun Engraving, that's where you can get your Wrestle Talk Podcast mugs for just $20. Nobleman's Barber Lounge in Kansas City, Missouri. King Kate Arcade at Oak Park Mall. Interstate 70 Sports Media. Little Popeye Designs, that's where you can get your Wrestle Talk Podcast tumbler. And, of course, the Fantasy Wrestling Worldwide Chapter, the FWWC, the world's premier fantasy wrestling group.
Thank you very much, Alpha. And again, if you want to pick up one of those great Wrestle Talk podcast mugs or a tumbler, make it a point. Send us a message on social media. You can get one of those. Both of those are really great. And as the Night Owl would consistently say, they keep your beverages anywhere from 15 to 22% cooler. If you're using a hot drink, it's between 11 and 13% warmer, and that's from the Night Owl personally himself. Gentlemen, one last thing before we go, and Christy, throw it up here. We bring it up here each and every week. For those of you that are encountering any kind of problems, any kind of stresses in your life, make sure to if you need the help, National Suicide Prevention Hotline 988. They're available 24/7, 365. Our good friend Jeremy Karp brought this to the program many months ago. And again, if you're ever feeling like the stress of the world's really weighing you down, please know that you got somebody that you can talk to. Again, 988. They're available 24/7, 365. Make it a point. National Suicide Prevention Hotline. Guys, again, another great show. If you're in the St. Louis area, make it a point. Dynamo Pro Wrestling on Saturday, May 6th at Cherokee and Iowa Street. It's part of the Cinco de Mayo Festival. May 13th, SICW presents the Bruiser Brody Memorial Cup, also honoring Larry Matisic and Tony Costa. Countless wrestlers in the professional wrestling world are going to be there. Also, the Night Owl, Renee Martinez, and Sonny Money Mayo are going to be in the house along with the maestro Jeremy Karp. And who knows, you might see Chris Rodell himself there as well. Guys, again, I want to say thank you for tuning into the Wrestle Talk podcast. For Justin Wade, the Alpha, and Luke Roberts, we'll see you right here next week on the Wrestle Talk podcast. Take care.